The galaxy had known nothing but war for as long as anyone could remember. The great empires had fought in endless conflict across star systems, their battles stretching from one corner of the galaxy to the other. Civilizations were born and destroyed in the blink of an eye, entire species wiped out with a single stroke of overwhelming force. The Varkorians, the Nithari, and the Sithrics were the three titans of this war, their technologies more advanced than anything the lesser species could ever dream of. They had long ago settled into their own power structures, and the balance of the galaxy rested on a precarious edge, with no room for new players. The war was too vast, too consuming for anyone to dare intervene. But then something happened, something no one expected. Earth had been silent for eons, hiding in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, isolated from the war that had consumed everyone else. It was a backwater planet in the eyes of the galactic powers, a small, insignificant world, barely able to leave its own atmosphere, its people living in a constant state of struggle and survival. And yet Earth did something no one could have predicted. Earth spoke. The message was brief. It was simple, it was direct. We are here, and we are coming to fight. At first, no one even noticed. The message was dismissed as a glitch, a curious anomaly in the communications network. Some believed it was a joke, a piece of ill-timed comedy from a species that didn't know any better. But the truth was far stranger than anyone could have anticipated. Earth had been watching the war from the shadows. While the great galactic empires tore themselves apart, humanity had been busy learning, growing, evolving. They had discovered new ways of thinking, new ways of making things work, and they had developed new technologies, ones that no one had seen before. Earth scientists had been toiling away in secret in underground labs, hidden from the prying eyes of the galaxy, creating ships, weapons, and technology that seemed almost primitive by galactic standards, but were unlike anything the major empires had ever faced. Humanity's ingenuity had given them the edge they needed. They weren't as advanced as the Varkorians, the Nithari, or the Sithrics, but they had something the other races didn't. They had unpredictability. Humanity wasn't bound by the rules that governed the older empires. They weren't constrained by centuries of tradition and rigid thinking. The humans had only one rule, and that was to survive. They knew they had no place in the war, but they had no choice but to fight, and they would fight differently. They had no history in galactic politics, no alliances, no treaties, no ancient grudges. Their only loyalty was to themselves and to their planet. They had no intention of bowing to any of the powers that had come before them. The message had been sent, and Earth was preparing to enter the war, not as another pawn in the hands of the great empires, but as a force that would change the course of the galaxy forever. It was a declaration of defiance, one that would shake the foundations of the galaxy and leave the established powers reeling from the shock of the unknown. It was only a matter of time before the rest of the galaxy would understand Earth was here, and the war would never be the same again. The initial response to Earth's message was filled with laughter and disbelief. The great powers of the galaxy scoffed at the idea of a backwater species with no influence entering a war that had already raged for centuries. How could humanity possibly think they had anything to offer the galaxy's dominant forces? The Varkorians dismissed them as pests. Their fleet was vast, their technology nearly invincible. They would crush any challenge without effort. The Nithari sent word that they were ready to wipe the humans from existence if they dared to interfere in their domain. And the Sithrics, the most brutal of the three empires, simply ignored the message entirely, dismissing Earth as a forgotten relic that posed no threat. But no one could have predicted the truth. No one could have predicted the surge of power that would rise from Earth's depths, a power that was completely unfamiliar to the galaxy's war-hardened forces. Humanity had no place in the galactic war, yet they carried something that would make the galaxy's most advanced empires tremble. They carried the spark of unpredictability and invention that had long been absent from the conflict. For the first time in centuries, someone had dared to fight in a way that had never been seen before. Earth was not following the rules. It was not using the same weapons or the same strategies. Humanity had adapted quickly and aggressively, taking alien technology and bending it to their will. Humans were fast learners, and their creativity made them capable of bending even the most foreign systems to their advantage. The technology they had developed was crude by galactic standards, yet it worked in ways no one could have predicted. Their ships while small and seemingly fragile, were capable of adapting in real time to the shifting battlefield. Their weapons were not just tools of destruction, but creations that bent the very rules of physics, shifting the trajectory of missiles, altering the density of armor, and even manipulating energy fields in ways the other races had never imagined. When the first human fleet arrived in the war, the Varkorians laughed. Their massive dreadnoughts were enough to obliterate anything in their path. Yet when the battle began, Earth's ships flew erratically, dodging blasts that would have destroyed even the most advanced alien vessels. The Varkorian ships fired their most powerful weapons with precision, but the humans zigged and zagged in ways that confused their targeting systems. Entire fleets were baffled at the erratic movements of these tiny ships. Their tactics appeared random to the point of madness, but they were working. They were creating havoc in the Varkorian lines. No one had ever fought like this before, and it caught the Varkorians off guard as humanity's ships weaved through enemy fire and struck with pinpoint accuracy. Humanity's war machines adapted mid-combat, shifting their designs in response to Varkorian counterattacks. It was a style of warfare that made no sense to anyone else, but to the humans it was instinctual. They had no formal training, no long history of galactic conflict. They simply fought to survive, and the galaxy's great empires were struggling to understand how these new players had turned the tide in battle against the most advanced forces they had ever known. The Nithari and the Sithrix watched in confusion as Earth's small but determined fleet clashed with their enemies on the battlefield. Something was wrong. The humans weren't supposed to be capable of this. They weren't supposed to have the skill, the resources, or the technology to challenge the dominant powers of the galaxy. But in that moment, the galaxy's great empires realized something terrifying. Earth was not only a new player in the war, but a wild card that could change everything, and no one knew what would happen next. The first true clash of Earth's fleet against the Sithrix marked a turning point in the war, one that no one saw coming. The Sithrix had long been feared across the galaxy. Their biological war machines were horrors crafted from the deepest parts of their twisted science, creatures that could adapt and regenerate faster than anything humanity had ever seen. Their ships were living entities, massive bioships that pulsed with energy, their weapons made of organic materials that could shred through even the toughest hulls in mere moments. But the humans arrived with something the Sithrix could not anticipate, a weapon they had never encountered: unpredictability. The battle took place in the Noreth's Belt, a chaotic and dangerous asteroid field that had seen countless battles over the centuries. It was a perfect location for the humans to make their mark. The Sithrix had gathered their forces, believing the humans would be easy prey, but they couldn't have been more wrong. The human fleet, though outnumbered and under-equipped, was not there to follow the established rules of battle. They came not with a desire to win through strength, but through sheer ingenuity. Earth's ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Small, nimble, and rapidly adaptable, they didn't fight with the precision of the Nithari or the overwhelming force of the Varkorians. Instead, they fought with chaos. They flew in erratic patterns that defied logic, their ships darting between asteroids with a speed that left the Sithrix in confusion. The Sithrix ships fired their weapons with deadly accuracy, but each blast missed by mere inches. The human vessels were too fast, too unpredictable for their targeting systems to lock onto. The Sithrix commanders watched in disbelief as their bioships struggled to track the humans, as if the Earth ships were constantly shifting. Reality itself, each time they attempted to attack the humans, seemed to anticipate it and dodge before the shot was even fired. It was as if Earth's ships were alive themselves, anticipating the Sithrix moves before they were made and striking where the Sithrix were weakest. Humanity's ships had been designed to adapt in real time to the environment around them. Their computers analyzed the battlefield at an incredible speed, allowing them to adjust on the fly to any incoming threat. They had no preconceived strategies, no rigid battle plans. They simply reacted to the chaos around them. And it worked. The Sithrix's living ships could regenerate damage, but they could not outrun the chaos of humanity's unpredictability. Each time one of their bioships took a hit, it took longer and longer to regenerate the damage. They were not designed to withstand such erratic warfare in the heat of the battle. The Sithrix began to panic. Their leaders screamed orders, but the humans kept coming. The Sithrix had believed their biological weapons were invincible, but they had never faced an opponent that didn't obey the established rules of war. They had never encountered an enemy that could outsmart them at every turn. Humanity's surprise tactics worked time and again, and after hours of furious fighting, the Sithrix fleet was forced to retreat in disarray. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had defeated a force they were never supposed to stand a chance against in a battle where no one expected them to win. Earth's victory was a moment that would reverberate across the galaxy. The Sithrix would not forget it, the galaxy would not forget it, and humanity had just proven something that no one had dared to believe: they could change the course of the war. In the aftermath of their unexpected victory against the Sithrix, the human fleet didn't have much time to celebrate. The war was far from over, and the galaxy's attention was now fully on Earth. No longer dismissed as an insignificant player, humanity had earned the attention of the galaxy's most powerful empires. But with that attention came the weight of suspicion and curiosity. The Varkorians, the Nithari, and the Sithrix had all begun to wonder just how much Earth had hidden up its sleeve. How could a species so primitive on the surface possess such an unpredictable fighting style and technology that defied their understanding? The humans knew they had barely scratched the surface of their potential. They had fought with instinct and innovation, but they needed more. They needed to understand why they had the ability to adapt and thrive in ways that the galaxy's other empires couldn't. The answer came unexpectedly when a distress signal was intercepted from an old derelict space station deep within the borders of the Sithrix-controlled space. It was a signal that had been drifting in the void for millennia, a remnant of a long-forgotten war. The humans immediately dispatched a team to investigate, and what they found would change everything. As they boarded the space station and began to explore its dark corridors, the human crew was struck by the sight of something ancient, something beyond their understanding. The station was a relic from an era far older than the current conflict. It was not designed by the Sithrix or any of the current galactic powers. Its architecture was alien in a way that was almost unsettling. There was an eerie stillness to the place, as if it had been waiting for someone to find it and awaken it from its long slumber. The deeper they ventured into the station, the more they uncovered strange symbols etched into the walls and alien technology that seemed to hum with a strange energy. At the center of the station, they discovered an artifact unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was a large crystalline structure, pulsing with a deep inner glow. The humans could feel its energy radiating through the air, like a faint but constant vibration. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. When the artifact was finally activated by the human team, a hidden message began to play. A voice echoed through the station, one that sounded impossibly ancient, but unmistakably familiar. The voice spoke of Earth and of its long-lost past. The message revealed a truth that no one could have predicted. Humanity was not a mere bystander in the galaxy's history. They were not an accidental species born out of the chaos of the stars. Earth had once been the center of a vast galactic empire, a civilization so advanced that it had influenced the entire galaxy with its technology and wisdom. But that empire had fallen long before the current war began. The reasons for its fall were buried in the deep past, lost to time. But the remnants of that empire remained scattered across the stars. The artifact the humans had found was one of those remnants, a key to unlocking the lost potential of Earth's ancient civilization. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not a newcomer to the galaxy. They were a lost power returning to reclaim their place at the center of the galaxy, and the artifact itself held the key to unimaginable power that could reshape the balance of the war and the future of the galaxy itself. As the humans studied the artifact, they realized that it was not just a relic, it was a weapon. It could manipulate the very fabric of space itself, warping gravity and bending time in ways that defied all known science. It was a tool of unimaginable destruction and creation, and it was a tool that humanity could now wield. But the galaxy's great powers had not been idle. While Earth made its discovery, the Varkorians, the Nithari, and the Sithrix had all taken notice, and they now knew the truth. Earth was not just a late arrival to the war. It was a sleeping giant, and its awakening would send shockwaves through the galaxy. With the revelation of Earth's forgotten legacy, the galaxy stood on the brink of a new age. The artifact found in the Sithrix-controlled space station was just the beginning. Humanity now held the key to a lost empire's technology, a power no one in the galaxy had imagined. Earth had always been seen as an insignificant player in the grand scheme of things, but now it had the means to shift the balance of power across the stars. The truth of humanity's ancient empire spread quickly throughout the galaxy. The ancient humans were not just survivors of a long-forgotten past. They had been conquerors, architects of a golden age that spanned the galaxy, but their empire had vanished without a trace. The reasons behind its fall remained shrouded in mystery, and though many wondered what had caused such a vast civilization to collapse, they also realized one undeniable fact: the humans had not just survived, they had been waiting. And now they were awakening to reclaim what had once been theirs. The galaxy's great empires responded with a mixture of fear and intrigue. The Varkorians and the Nithari both sent emissaries to Earth, hoping to negotiate with the humans to form alliances in the face of this newfound power, but their attempts were met with cold indifference. Humanity had no interest in subjugation or submission. They were not eager to join the existing powers of the galaxy, but to forge their own path and claim their place once again as masters of the stars. Humanity's ships now bore the unmistakable mark of their ancient heritage. Sleek and powerful, their designs reflected the lost civilization's mastery over space-time and gravity. Weapons capable of obliterating entire fleets were now at humanity's disposal, and their tactics no longer relied on chaotic unpredictability alone. Earth's forces adapted quickly to the new technology, unlocking abilities that allowed them to warp space, to create energy shields that defied every known law of physics, and to craft weapons that could bend time itself. These new technologies were nothing short of revolutionary. The Sithrix quickly realized that the humans had mastered the very force that powered their biological ships. Gravity itself no longer served as the weapon of their choosing. Humanity had turned it against them. Their bioships could regenerate, but they could not withstand the gravitational distortions humanity could now impose on the battlefield. Entire fleets of Sithrix ships were suddenly slowed and crushed under the weight of artificial gravity fields that the humans could manipulate at will. Their advanced technology was turning the tide of battle in ways the galaxy had never seen before. For the first time, the Sithrix were not in control of their own ships. Humanity had found the key to defeating their most powerful adversary, and they wielded it with chilling precision. The Nithari, who had once held the upper hand with their psychic powers, found themselves facing an enemy who had learned to block their most devastating attacks. Earth's shields adapted to psychic intrusion with ease, creating an impenetrable barrier that even the strongest of the Nithari could not break through. Earth's new technologies rendered the Nithari's once feared powers useless and left the ancient race struggling to understand how such a primitive species had mastered what they could not. For the Varkorians, the shock was equally profound. Their warships now found themselves outclassed by human vessels that moved with impossible speed and precision. Earth's ships no longer fought in chaotic patterns alone, but in coordinated strikes that exploited the weaknesses of their enemies' designs. The humans no longer had to rely on sheer unpredictability alone. They had the full weight of ancient knowledge and technology at their disposal, and they were using it to dismantle the galactic powers piece by piece. What the galaxy didn't yet know was that humanity had not just reclaimed its legacy, they had enhanced it. They had taken the ancient knowledge of their ancestors and refined it to suit their own needs. Humanity was no longer just a fledgling species in the galaxy. They were a force of nature reshaping the very fabric of the war itself. The question now was not whether humanity would survive. The question was whether the rest of the galaxy could survive humanity's rise to power. As Earth's power continued to grow and its new technology became a weapon of unparalleled destruction, the galaxy's great empires began to feel the pressure. The first wave of humanity's victories was only the beginning. The once mighty Sithrix found themselves reeling as entire fleets were wiped out by humanity's new weapons. The Nithari's psychic abilities were rendered useless against humanity's shields that adapted to counter their mind-based attacks. The Varkorians, whose indestructible war machines had once been the terror of the galaxy, now found themselves facing an opponent who could match them at every turn. But the most shocking revelation of all was that the ancient artifact humanity had unearthed was not just a weapon of war, it was a key to something far greater, a piece of technology that was capable of bending the very laws of physics itself, gravity, time, space. All could be manipulated by those who understood it, and humanity was rapidly unlocking its secrets. The galaxy's greatest powers began to realize that they were no longer in control. The war was no longer a contest of military strength alone now. It was a battle for control over the lost knowledge of humanity's ancestors. Every encounter, every battle shifted the balance of power. As humanity's influence grew stronger, the Varkorians, the Nithari, and the Sithrics each saw the rise of Earth as a threat that could not be ignored. They had all feared the humans, but now their fear was turning to desperation. Alliances were made between former enemies, with the goal of containing humanity's rapid expansion. The once feared Galactic Council found itself divided on what to do with Earth. Its members now saw the humans as an unknown variable, one that threatened to unravel the delicate peace that had once held the galaxy together. Some called for an immediate attack, hoping to eliminate the human threat before it grew too powerful. Others saw a different path, a diplomatic approach that would allow humanity to integrate into the galactic community under their terms. But no one could agree on how to deal with the humans, and with each passing day the humans' hold on the war tightened. The humans had only one thing on their side, that no one could take away: their ingenuity, their adaptability, their sheer will to survive. They had learned from the mistakes of the past and refused to be bound by the laws of the old powers. They had no alliances, no treaties, and no loyalty to the old empires. They only had loyalty to Earth and to each other. And that was a force far more dangerous than any fleet of warships the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's fleet, once small and unassuming, now commanded respect as it tore through the galaxy's battlefields at will, each victory cementing their reputation as a rising power. No longer were they the latecomers, the underdogs. No longer did they have to sneak around the edges of the war. Now they were at the heart of the conflict, demanding the galaxy's attention. Each battle shifted the tide of the war as Earth's ships grew bolder, their strategies more daring and effective. The galaxy's most formidable enemies had never faced an opponent who fought not with tradition, but with the full weight of innovation. Humanity's ships no longer moved randomly or erratically, but with calculated precision, in ways that no one had ever anticipated. They had cracked the code of galactic warfare and had now become the vanguard of a new order. As the Varkorians, the Nithari, and the Sithrics struggled to maintain their dominance, they began to realize something terrifying. They had not just underestimated Earth's military capability, they had underestimated the true power of the human spirit. The war had shifted from a battle for survival into a battle for the future of the galaxy, and Earth was leading the charge for a new era, one where the old powers could no longer dictate the course of events. The question now was not who would win the war, but who would be left standing when the dust settled. Would humanity emerge as the new rulers of the stars, or would the ancient empires find a way to suppress the rising tide of Earth's power? As Earth's dominance over the battlefield became undeniable, the galaxy began to stir with a mixture of fear, admiration, and uncertainty. The once dominant empires of the Varkorians, the Nithari, and the Sithrics had underestimated humanity's rise. Now they found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered in millennia, an enemy that didn't play by the established rules of war. The once unshakable balance of power was rapidly collapsing, and the galaxy watched as Earth's influence expanded at an alarming rate. The Sithrics, still reeling from the staggering loss of their fleets, were the first to reach out to Earth with a tentative offer. Their bioships, once considered the pinnacle of military might, were now vulnerable to the gravitational weapons humanity had unleashed. In desperation, the Sithrics sought an alliance, hoping that by joining forces with Earth, they could salvage some semblance of power and protect their way of life. But the humans were not eager to accept such offers of cooperation. Instead, they offered terms that the Sithrics could neither refuse nor accept with ease. Humanity had learned one vital lesson from their own history: the need for self-sufficiency. They had no interest in becoming subservient to any of the old powers of the galaxy, Not the Sithrics, not the Nithari, and certainly not the Varkorians. Humanity wasn't just seeking a place among the stars. They were aiming for a position of control, not as a mere ally, but as a leader in the rebuilding of the galaxy. The Nithari, too, saw the writing on the wall. Their psychic powers, once thought invincible, had been neutralized by humanity's shields and anti-psychic technologies. Frustrated and cornered, they attempted a diplomatic approach, offering humanity a place in their vast collective psyche. It was an offer to share power, a blending of minds that would have placed Earth within the fold of their intellectual superiority. But once again, the humans refused. They had no desire to join the Nithari's collective or become beholden to their mental dominance. Instead, humanity wanted to carve out their own path and reshape the galaxy on their terms. The Varkorians, for their part, were more pragmatic in their approach. Recognizing that brute force alone could no longer guarantee their supremacy, they offered to recognize humanity's growing power in exchange for an alliance that would bolster their forces and restore some of their lost territory. Yet the humans, who had now mastered the technology of their ancient empire, saw the Varkorians as just another force to be outmaneuvered. They no longer saw the need to negotiate with the Varkorians on their terms. They could, and would, take what they wanted. In the wake of these failed negotiations, the galaxy's other factions began to panic. The once unified Galactic Council, which had long been the governing body of the galaxy's various powers, found itself fractured. Old alliances splintered as the realization set in that the balance of power was shifting. Some factions sought to join humanity's growing influence, hoping to align themselves with the new rising power. Others, more desperate, began to plot in secret, planning to strike at humanity before it grew too powerful. In the midst of this growing tension, a new conflict began to emerge, one that wasn't just about military might, but about ideology. The question at the heart of the galaxy's struggle was no longer about defeating one another on the battlefield. It was about whether the old order would survive or whether a new era, led by humanity, would take its place. Humanity, with its newfound power and confidence, stood at the crossroads of galactic history. With every victory, they gained not just military strength, but the support of those who saw in them the promise of a new future, one where the old powers were no longer the gatekeepers of the galaxy's destiny. The humans' rise had begun to inspire countless smaller factions, those who had long been oppressed by the great empires, to join their cause. A revolution was stirring, not only on Earth but across the stars. The question now was whether the galaxy's ancient powers could adapt in time to prevent the rise of Earth as the new hegemon, or whether they would be swept aside by the tide of a new galactic order led by a species that had once been forgotten, but now stood on the brink of reshaping the universe itself. The war was no longer just a struggle for survival. It was a struggle for the future of the galaxy, and humanity was determined to lead the charge into that new era. The galaxy had never seen anything like this before. An uprising led by a species once deemed insignificant now standing poised to dominate the stars. Earth, once isolated and overlooked, had grown into a power that threatened to reshape everything. The old empires, fractured and weakened by their own arrogance, had tried and failed to contain the rise of humanity. They had underestimated the will of a species determined to survive and thrive, and now they faced the consequence of their short-sightedness. In the final days of the war, as Earth's forces continued to carve through the remaining pockets of resistance, a final confrontation loomed on the horizon. The Sithrics, the Nithari, and the Varkorians had each suffered heavy losses, their fleets shattered by humanity's unexpected brilliance. The Galactic Council, once a symbol of unity among the galaxy's great powers, had dissolved into infighting and panic. The once proud empires now found themselves facing an enemy they could not defeat with sheer might alone. Earth's victory was not just a military triumph. It was a symbolic shift in the power dynamics of the galaxy. Humanity, having unlocked the ancient technology of their ancestors, had created something that none of the galaxy's greatest powers had, a future that was not bound by the old ways of war and conquest. Humanity's ships no longer flew solely with military precision. They now represented a new vision for the galaxy, one that embraced creativity, adaptability, and the power of the individual. The galactic warlords had fought in accordance with rules that were hundreds of millennia old, but humanity was determined to rewrite those rules. In the final days of the war, a council was called, not of the old powers, but of the new leaders of the galaxy. Human representatives, now commanding entire sectors of the galaxy, met with delegates from smaller factions who had rallied behind Earth's cause. For the first time in millennia, the power of the galaxy's future would be decided by those who had been excluded from it: the oppressed, the overlooked, and the forgotten. The galaxy's great powers, beaten and demoralized, watched as humanity's leadership shaped the terms of the future. The old empires, knowing they had no choice but to accept humanity's rise, reluctantly offered a treaty. But the humans were not interested in just another piece of paper. They wanted something more profound, an entirely new system of governance, one that broke from the feudal structures of the past. They proposed a galactic council that would include all species, regardless of their military strength or historical influence. A council where power was determined by contribution, innovation, and the willingness to work together to create a better future for all. No longer would one species dominate the others through sheer force. No longer would the future be dictated by ancient grudges. As the final peace treaty was signed, the galaxy held its breath. Earth, once a backwater planet on the edge of the galaxy, had now become the center of a new era. Humanity's leadership had not been built on dominance, but on a shared vision for the future, one that embraced diversity, progress, and cooperation. The great empires had fallen, not because they were defeated in battle, but because they could not adapt to the changing tides of the galaxy. And so the war ended, not with a final battle, but with the dawning of a new age. The galaxy, once divided and broken, began to rebuild under the leadership of those who had been overlooked for so long. Earth's legacy, long forgotten, had not only returned, it had reshaped the entire galaxy, creating a future that was no longer bound by the mistakes of the past. Humanity had proven itself. They had not just survived, they had thrived. And now, as they looked to the stars, they knew that the galaxy was theirs to shape, not with the weapons of war, but with the power of innovation, unity, and a vision that was bold enough to embrace the unknown. The galaxy had been changed forever, and humanity had led the charge.